Thank you everybody for watching. My name is Sam, and I'm joined with Eli, and we're kind of talk about his journey as an undergrad and in dental school, and what he plans for post dental school and YouTube as well. So thank you for joining me, Eli. Uh,
Yeah, of
for
course.
anybody who doesn't know you or know you from your YouTube channel or Instagram page, could you tell the listeners a little about yourself?
My name's Eli, full name Elias. I'm a second year dental student at Boston University Goldman School of Dental Medicine. Originally from Baltimore, Maryland. My mom is American, my dad's Caribbean. Uh, Grew up in the county like Owings Mills, Maryland. Um, Typical childhood environment. I can't really say there's anything too special about my upbringing. I was like a multi-sport athlete for the most part, played like football and basketball growing up. In high school I stuck mostly to basketball, played a year of lacrosse. Then I went to University of Maryland for undergrad. um Had a great time there. No regrets from undergrad. But I did spend a good amount of my time doing other things besides focusing on just school. And also, while I was in undergrad, I was pre-med, and we'll definitely talk about that some more during the interview. But yeah, I also did a post-bac program at George Mason University after I was in undergrad, and then now I'm in dental school.
Nice. Thank you so much. Well, before we get into kind of your academic journey, how did you first get into your think about dentistry? You said you were pre-med, and you hear all the time about, dentists or doctors having a origin story or a story where they something clicked and they knew they wanted to go into their certain career. Did you have a story like that, or was it kind of like stable pay, stable job? I want to do that.
Yeah, I definitely have like a life-changing, so cliche, but like it really is my story. And one thing I preach to people is like no one can tell you that your story is fake, but I definitely have a cliche story, like don't get me wrong. So like I said, I was pre-med when I was in undergrad. Grades weren't super great. I graduated undergrad with a 2.97, and I think my GPA was definitely somewhere between like 2.6 and 2.7. Of course, my undergrad had the plus minus system. So like a 2.7 is a B minus, 2.3 is like a C plus. So I was basically in the C plus B minus range. Um, when I graduated undergrad as a pre-med student, I definitely knew that wasn't in the place to apply to medical school yet. Both academic and maturity wise, I always knew I would need a gap year. Um, and so I started thinking about what I could do to kind of over overcome my poor academic performance, or my, I wouldn't call it poor, but it wasn't the best. Um, and so I decided to do like a post-bac research program at NIH. And I figured at the time that, I was really avoiding what was inevitable, which if I probably would have served me better, but I definitely don't regret the path that I took. Like doing research was something life-changing for me as well. Um, but I started working at NIH, and the program I was in paid like around $30,000 a year. So for me, that was like my first real job. And I decided with the money I was making, besides paying bills, the first thing I was going to buy for myself was I was going to go back and get braces for a second time. So I originally had braces when I was in middle school, like eighth grade to 10th grade. Obviously, that's not middle school, but it started when I was in middle school. Um, I got my braces off, and I almost immediately, so growing up, I had like a big gap in my two front teeth, whatever. My teeth weren't that bad, but I definitely was really insecure about my gap. Um, After I got my braces off, my gap like started coming back almost immediately. When you get your braces off, you get your retainer checks every few months or whatever. So the first time I went back for my retainer check, I told my orthodontist I didn't think my retainer was working. He took like a quick look in my mouth and told me that I needed a frenectomy. For people that don't know, that's like getting a piece of your gums clipped that's your frenum holds your buccal frenum holds your upper lip, basically attaching it to your gums. And mine was kind of protruding in between my two front teeth, pushing my teeth apart, and I had to get it cut. In retrospect, personally, I feel like that's something I should have known long before getting braces or getting my braces off. It's not something that just appeared. But either way, that's what happened. I ended up getting it, but at that point, it was kind of too late for my retainer to do anything, and I kind of didn't really care. High school was just like whatever. So yeah, when I went back, I went to the same office, but my old orthodontist had retired and he had been bought out by like a corporation. And the new orthodontist that was working there was a black woman, a young black. Well, yeah, she's pretty young for an orthodontist, honestly. And I felt like I could really relate to her. I told her when I went in there, like about my basically like my insecurities with my teeth, my struggles with my past orthodontist. Told her, she was really interested in getting to know me. So, I told her like, yeah, I'm currently studying for the MCAT, I'm pre-med, blah, blah, blah. And then over time, like my interest just switched, not only just from seeing her, she was the first black physician, dentist, any kind of health professional that I've seen in my life. But also like I really just took a natural interest to like my braces process. Like it's kind of weird, but this is how I got into the YouTube thing too. Like I would look at like people's braces vlogs. Like everyone that was getting braces, I started like going and watching their videos. They would vlog like when they were going for their checkups and all that stuff, or going for their change their wires, get their bands changed, etc. And obviously like I just had it was just something to do to watch on YouTube, but like it just kind of became really interesting at some point. And then like at some point I found myself like watching their vlogs and matching up like what their most recent appointment was, and then I'd go on their page and see like how much later it was that they got their braces off, and started trying to figure out like when I was going to get my braces off and stuff, just trying to make the time go by. Because as you all may or may not know, having braces as an adult isn't the most fun thing in the world, especially when you already look young. um but yeah, honestly, by the time I was getting my braces off, which was like March or April, maybe like April of 2019. It was literally like a month after I took the MCAT. And I just decided, like, you know what, I'm going to start studying for the DAT. And because I think I want to switch. And the only thing I really wanted to do was just shadow a dentist first. And I was fortunate enough that like my cousin, who is probably like 20 years older than me at least, she owned a practice in Georgia. So I asked her if I could just like fly down and just like stay with her for a week and shadow. And like I got to see like every part of her life, from like not only working as a dentist, but also like being a business owner and like running a practice, and like her personal life, how often she works, how long she works, what she does outside of work. And it just really felt like the career for me. And after that, everything just kind of fell into place. Like I felt like I finally got to a point where I was really somewhere that I wanted and needed to be, and like in a career field that matched my personality. And like everything just felt perfect after that, to be honest. And I mean, it sounds like a fairy tale, but that's just really how it went for me.
Yeah, of course. Well, moving back to your time in undergrad and going to your post-bac program, how did you kind of handle yourself in a way? Because this space, this dental and pre-dental pre-med space is super competitive. And how did you manage yourself? How did you not tell yourself, it's time to give up on my dreams, it's time? Did you have people motivating you to finish and complete? How did you kind of keep yourself grounded into a state of like, oh, I can finish this?
Yeah. Well, honestly, like there were a lot of times where I wanted to give up. I think especially like during my freshman year, like especially during the first semester, I used to beg my parents to let me change my major to business, because I thought that's what I wanted to do. And they were just like really against it. And I told them like, I don't think I really want to go to med school. Like I always had that feeling in the back of my mind that like I don't really want to go to med school. But I also was like, what else could I do? Like as a bio major, as the years and the semesters went on, it's like I'm just getting deeper and deeper into this. And it's like I still have that feeling in the back of my mind. That's not something I want to do. But like what else am I gonna do? I started exploring like PT, PA, like I just started exploring other options. I always was just kind of like, I don't think I want to work in someone's mouth, so I'm gonna pass on dentistry. Like, but I was just like a stubborn, like, young adult, just trying to do whatever. And honestly, like I don't think it was until I ended up pledging a fraternity that like I got around people that I felt were really encouraging me or like were on the same path that were like, this is definitely something you can do. Like this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to go to med school, I'm trying to go to dental school, everything. And like they were providing me with resources and things that I wasn't really getting from my parents or like the advisors at school. Like I just kind of felt like there was never really anyone in my corner until I got around like the people in my fraternity. And once I got to that point, it was like, okay, like this is the goal. This is what I have to do to get there. And I was just laser focused. I didn't have much time to make up for what I did in my first 2.5 years of college. But I knew that at the end of my 4 years of college, like my story isn't done being written. Like I can still do X, Y, and Z to get to that next step. I can still do a post-bac program. I can still do research. I can still do all this stuff that can eventually get me there. So I guess like just, I definitely need that jump start. But after that, like I just kind of never lost sight of the goal. I knew that I wasn't racing against anyone. Like I was gonna run my own race and get there when I get there. And once I figured out a plan, all I had to do was execute.
Yeah, of course. So you talked about kind of your first experience shadowing a dentist, other than going to get braces, was your cousin in Georgia. What other extracurriculars did you put on your AdSess application, if there was?
Mhm.
And what do you think those extracurriculars actually helped you going into dental school? Like, what do you think translated into dental school?
Yeah, so when I was in undergrad, I was part of a of my fraternity 4 years, so that definitely spoke to my leadership abilities and like time management, especially like having a role as big as being president on top of working a part-time job on campus, taking a full slate of science classes, trying to graduate, all that stuff. They could see that I was pretty good at balancing a lot of different things with school. I also was on the e-board for minority pre-health society we had, the Charles Drew Society. Even though I was pre-med at the time, luckily for me, the pre-health society encompassed all all facets of pre-health, not just pre-med or just pre-dent, but we had pre-PT, all that stuff. Because my undergrad, I think they did have a pre-dental society, but um I was never in it. I don't obviously when I was an undergrad, it didn't even really concern me. That was nothing I was ever thinking about. But because I was in the pre-health society, it kind of looked the same way. No matter if I was pre-med or pre-dent in undergrad, it didn't really matter. I was very active in the organization and I served on the e-board. Um, what else did I do? I also happened to write down on my application that uh when I was in college, I played intramural basketball with like a lot of my high school teammates, and we ended up winning 3 years in a row. So they were like, okay, like he's competitive, like he's I went what's coordinated, you know what I'm saying? Like a former athlete, like they understand like you are able to it's kind of hard to explain, I guess, in the terms of how it relates to dentistry, but it is something that I was asked about in my interviews. I guess like, being part of a team, etc. I feel like you can relate anything that you do in college back to something that can help uh help you look unique on your applications. And if you're able to relate whatever it is to the field of dentistry or something in relation to the field of dentistry, then it can work in your favor. I mean, I wouldn't leave anything out because if anything, it just shows to all the other stuff you were doing on top of being just a student. And for someone like me who didn't have the strongest grades, at least I had other things that I was doing, and they were like, okay, well, at least you were doing other things and you were trying to balance that with school.
Yeah, of course. What was your interview process like? They say you said that they asked you about, kind of how basketball could impact how you could be as a dentist. What other things were you drilled on? Were you not ready for that you were ready for? What was that process like, the interview process?
So honestly, I only took two of the interviews that I was invited for, mainly because I so my interview at BU was very relaxed. It was honestly just like a conversation between me and my interviewer. My interview at another school, I decided I would stop putting the school's name out there, but I had an interview at another school that I just really didn't like. Um, and I don't think it helped that I had basically already committed to BU, like I already put my deposit down and everything. I kind of took the interview just to see if like, what else was out there. Maybe there's a school that I might like more or might offer me more money. And after the interview, like it was like they could offer me a full ride and I still wouldn't go there. So at that point, I figured I had definitely chose the right school, and I didn't need to spend any more of my time or waste money if I had to go somewhere trying to interview with other schools. And I mean, I don't regret it in the sense of like I think I would have chosen another school because I honestly probably wouldn't have. Um, if anything, I may have taken more interviews to try to get competing scholarship offers or something, but I also just, the interviews that I received were so late. I figured that they didn't have much money to offer me anyway, and it just kind of would have been a waste of my time. So I decided to just go with my gut. Um, I took two interviews. I chose the one that I liked far more than the other one. And I definitely think I chose the right school for me at the end of the day. So
Yeah,
it
of
was, it
course.
was pretty relaxed. I mean, I know I've heard of different schools having different methods, but where I interviewed, I mean, even though the second interview I wasn't a big fan of, I don't think it was the interview style. I really just think it was the people. I just didn't like their vibe at all. And I hear nothing but bad stuff about that school to this day. So clearly I wasn't the only one that felt that way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay, good. We touched a lot about, kind of how a lot of pre-dental people worry about. They worry about their GPA, they worry about their extracurriculars, they worry about the interview. The only thing we didn't touch on is the DAT.
Yeah, I figured that
Uh,
was
and I think
good.
you're unique because you took the MCAT and the DAT, right?
Yep.
So you kind of have both perspectives on what's challenging, what's different. Could you kind of, talk about the differences between the MCAT and DAT? If you
Uh-huh.
think it was harder, if you just think it was different, the sections, stuff like that.
So I always say that it depends on your learning style and what kind of test take you are. For me, the DAT was easier, but they're two very different tests. One, of course, the MCAT is a little longer. I think that test was 7 hours and 30 minutes, and the DAT was 4 hours and 30 minutes or so. The MCAT is all passage based. There may be some questions that are straightforward, but most of the time, it's a passage-based question on the MCAT, whereas the DAT, everything was straightforward. The only time you really had to read a passage was the reading comprehension section. I like that the DAT is straightforward. Either you know it or you don't. I think there are really good study resources out there for the DAT. I mean, honestly, I think DAT boot camp is better than any MCAT study resource I ever looked at. So there's that. Um, and I think what was challenging about the DAT, of course, is the PAT section because that's new to everybody, the processual abilities test. But I do think boot camp does a really good job of preparing you for it, especially by explaining how each question type is supposed to be solved, and then giving you the number of practice questions that they do. If you just practice, it's like playing a sport. You practice, you get better. If you just take the time to practice, honestly, it took me maybe like 10 or 15 minutes each day. I just put in a little bit of time each day and it turned out to be fine. So yeah, I took the DAT one time. I was happy with my scores, so I decided not to take it again. And I would have had to take that. I would have had to take the MCAT again for sure.
Yeah. Oh, so how many weeks did you study for the DAT?
So for the DAT, I was full-time studying. So I did have an advantage with that opposed to when I took the MCAT. I took the MCAT, I was still working at NIH, and I was like working 9 to 5 full-time and then trying to study like 2 or 3 hours a day for the MCAT. Whereas DAT, I studied full-time for probably the first 5 or 6 weeks. And then I went to Georgia to shadow. I think I studied full-time for the first 5 weeks. Went to Georgia to shadow for a week, so I didn't study then. And then when I came back, I was starting my post-bac program. So it was like part-time studying for maybe a month or a month and a half. So in total, probably like 10 weeks studying for the DAT. Realistically, if I studied full time, I would have probably been fine with like 6 or 7 weeks.
Nice, nice. And do you share your score of the D? I know some people
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, I don't care. I have it all over my YouTube anyway. So on the DAT, I got a 21 academic average, 22 PAT, 18 total science. And then the rest score breakdown, 23 on QR, 29 on reading comprehension, 19 on Gen Bio, 19 on Gen Chem, 15 on OChem. I think that's all the sections.
You have it memorized. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I'm really good with numbers. Like that's kind of my thing. But yeah, I like to talk about the 15 and OChem a lot because uh definitely not one of my strongest subjects. You could look at my transcript and tell I passed. Honestly, I don't know how, but I passed in undergrad. I got a C in organic one, or maybe a C plus, and probably a C in organic two. I got a 15 on the DAT, and honestly, the only school that I was applying to that had a cutoff was Maryland, which was 16 for each science, or maybe it was 18 for each science section. I don't know, but I told myself I wasn't going to take it again for one section, risk lowering my academic average and all that stuff. So I decided not to take it again. And I mean, I haven't used organic chemistry to this day in dental school, so I guess it was fine.
Yeah, of course. Well, talking about dental school, we can move on to your 2 years spent at Boston University.
Mm.
Um, what are the major differences that you see between your time in undergrad or your post-bac program and your time in dental school? How's the studying different? How's the time management different? How is it different in general, I guess?
Yeah. So I'm kind of lucky that I did a post-bac program. I feel like it was a very good intermediate step between undergrad and dental school. The difference between undergrad and dental school, night and day. Like, I mean, like if you're coming straight from undergrad, not even a like a gap year, you're in for a real treat. Like it's very overwhelming, and I understand. And majority of the people that end up dropping out of your class or taking a leave of absence because they need some more time are the people that go straight from undergrad. It's a very different. It's a lot more fast paced. It's a lot more information. And especially if you're the type of student, you graduate undergrad with a 3.9 and you get to dental school and you don't know how you're going to get that 3.9 again, it can become very overwhelming very quick. It can have tremendous effects on your mental health. And it's a lot. Like I won't lie, like you have to figure out a plan before you get here for sure. I think that doing a post back allowed me um a way to handle how like the amount of information while taking less classes than I am in dental school. But once it got to the point where I got to dental school and I knew what the information was going to be like, how much information it was going to be, and I knew that it was going to be more classes, I kind of knew what way I had to approach it in order to stay afloat. I personally definitely wouldn't have been able to handle something like this straight out of undergrad, or without any type of post back at all. But um, there are ways to get around it. It's really not the just not taking a gap year thing, just coming straight from undergrad. It's more so not taking the time to really figure out like how to balance everything at once. I feel like that's something really important, that if you're going to do anything before dental school, it's not, oh, start studying for this now, or start reading over anatomy now, or reading over physiology now. No, I think if you want to prepare for dental school, the two things that you need to do is, one, figure out something that you really like to do that can take your mind off of school, and two, figure out how to organize your time, whatever vehicle that may be through, whether it's a digital planner, a physical planner, a calendar, whatever it is. Figure out a way to be organized. If you're not an organized person, that'll be the death of you in dental school. It's too much to keep up with. You have to figure out a way if you haven't figured it out yet in college.
So tell us about how you stay organized. Like what is a daily schedule look like for you? From the time you wake up to the time you
Mhm.
go to sleep, your classes, working out, basketball,
Mhm.
YouTube. How do you manage all of those?
Everything goes in the calendar. At least all school stuff goes in a physical planner. I use the same physical planner that I got my first year of dental school. And ironically, it's like a company that was started by like some dental students. It's called Lilac Paper, but they make like dental school planners. I write everything in here, like everything that I need to do, it gets written in, it gets crossed off. They have like sheets at the beginning of your month. I'll write down like all the exams I have, honestly, anything. Like my whole brain is in here. I don't like trying to remember things that I could just write down. I already have to remember enough for school. I don't need things getting cluttered up here, and that's how you forget things. So I write everything down. Even something like meeting with you today at 5. I didn't even have school today, but I had to write in my calendar that I had the meeting with you, because I genuinely forgot until the reminder came up on my calendar on my phone. And we just talked about it a few days ago. So the best way to stay organized, use a calendar, use a planner, use all that stuff. Like your phone has a notes app, a reminder app, and a calendar app. There's no reason why you can't write something down. Everyone's always on their phone anyway, and it takes 5 seconds. You can even tell Siri to write it down for you, but it's the easiest way to stay organized. Just write things down somewhere that you're going to remember to look, and you don't even have to remember things for yourself anymore. Your phone can remember everything for you.
Yeah, of course. That's great. Getting into the nitty-gritty about study habits and studying in undergrad and how you studied in dental school. Do you think you study differently now in dental school? And how do you do that through? Because there's a lot of physical examinations that you have to do now in dental school. So how do you prepare for that? Because it's a lot different than just studying for a standardized test, you know?
Yeah. Honestly, undergrad was a while ago for me, and I probably didn't do that intensive studying until finals week every year. I studied, you know, honestly, I don't even remember how I studied in undergrad, because like life changes when you get an iPad. Like, and it like no one in like there's no one in dental school that doesn't have an iPad. I got my iPad during my post bac. That was the first time when I realized I really needed it. The way I like to study now, obviously I go to class. I save time by not having to write down whatever is already on the PowerPoint, because it's already on my iPad. I usually just write down other things that the teacher is saying. Um, the best part, my undergrad, like we had the ability to record lectures. It never happened. They never recorded anything. I'm sure that's changed now. I went to undergrad before COVID ever happened. But at least my post bac was literally half of it was before COVID, and then once spring break came, we couldn't come back. So I kind of got the best of both worlds there. But my post bac was the first time I was in a school system where every class was being recorded. And so once I had access to something like that, my whole study habits changed. Like, so I know it doesn't compare to undergrad at all. Now what I like to do, I go to class. I'm one of those people, I don't stay home from class. I don't watch the recording later. Like if we have class at a certain time, I'm going. I don't want to spend extra time that I should have already been in class anyway. But I take notes. And when I study, I like to kind of rewrite notes. That's always been what I do. Like even in undergrad, I didn't have an iPad, but I would take notes on my laptop. I'd rewrite them by hand on a in a notebook, like a 5-star notebook. And even now, like I still like to rewrite things pen and paper because that's the way you remember things. I've definitely gotten more into group studying when I was in my post back and in dental school, like just going over the information with someone, talking about it out loud. That's something that helps you memorize things as well. These are all study habits that like they kind of teach you over time, like when you're in college, like you kind of get these different study habits from all different people. At the end of the day, you just have to find what works for you. For some things I like to group study for, some things I don't. I kind of switch it up by what class it is, honestly, but something that I do for just about every class is rewrite my notes. That's something that probably hasn't changed since college. And then when it comes to taking like lab exams in dental school, practice. You gotta take the time to go back to school and get in the lab and practice, whether that's on the weekend. I'm at school a lot on the weekends. I won't say everyone is because some people find time to do it during the week, but someone like me that likes to go to school, come home, go to the gym. I don't really have time to go back to school during the week. I'll make time if there's an exam coming up, but I get a lot of my practice in on the weekends and I choose to do that as opposed to like hanging out during the day or watching TV and stuff. I'll just go to school and knock some hours out.
Yeah, of course. So the clinics and the dental school stays open during the weekends for
Yeah,
students to come in and say, "Oh, that's really nice."
yeah. All day and night. I'm actually gonna go there after this interview. So yeah, I mean it closes around like 11, but we have access basically from like 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day.
Nice. And how would you say the community is in dental school? You have a small class, big class at Boston University, and how do they all, do you guys help each other? Is it very individualized? How would you say the community is?
So yeah, obviously it's definitely gonna vary depending on what school you go to, but I can speak to Boston University. Our class size, I would call it medium size. Each class starts with like 115 or 117. Um, my school love the community. Everyone is very helpful. It's not a, I wouldn't call it a competitive environment at all. People are very glad to help, especially like older students, especially when it comes to learning how to do things in a sim lab. If something's not really clicking for you, there's always a third or fourth year that's willing to help you, willing to come in during their free time to help you. Um, and same thing with us, like as even as second years, like we love to help the D1s. At least, they're not as much in the sim lab, but when it comes to like the didactic courses and we just finished taking them last year, we like to help them as far as telling them, okay, what you need to study for this class's final, what you need to be making sure you pay attention to for this exam for anatomy, et cetera, et cetera. It's definitely like a culture of reaching back and helping the people under you at BU, I would say, like, and I love it. Definitely a great environment.
Yeah, of course. Moving on to one of the most prominent things that you do in dentistry, I guess you could say on a social media level, is your YouTube channel and your Instagram page as a whole. What made you start to kind of film your dental content?
Mhm. So I kind of always had the idea when I was applying to dental school that like I wanted to start a YouTube channel. Mainly because like when I was an undergrad and I was pre-med, I found a doctor on YouTube, Dr. Antonio Webb, and I used to watch like his like residency vlogs and stuff just for like little motivation to help me like on my pre-med journey, like just seeing someone, especially someone that looked like me and that was in the specialty that I wanted to do, like being able to just like take a study break and watch one of his vlogs or something just to motivate me to get back to studying or whatever it might be. I just personally found that so valuable as a pre-med. And so when I switched to being pre-dent, obviously the first thing I did was hop on YouTube and see if I could find something to motivate me. So I happened to come across the Future DDS channel, which was ran by two students that just recently graduated from Tufts. And I saw them like giving out tips on how to get into dental school and like interview tips and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, this is great. I just wish they did vlogs like how Dr. Webb did on his channel. Like, and so then I was like, okay, well, there's no one doing that. So I might as well fill that hole and just do it. And then, I started to come across like a lot of people who, D1s at the time. So I guess now they would be like D3s or D4s, but like, I would come across a million channels and Instagram pages of like people that kind of get started and then they just fall off. And like, I don't know, it kind of just motivated me. It wasn't like, oh, I want to be the person to do this or anything, but it was kind of just like, I know how it feels when you're following someone or you're looking to someone for motivation and it kind of feels like they abandon you. And I feel like that kind of pushes me so much to like keep putting out content because I would hate to just like have all these people like, I never imagined it getting to, the 2,000 subscribers that I'm at now, but like now it's like, okay, I got 2,000 people, even if like 1,000 of it is like family and family friends that just like click subscribe and never watch a video. It's like out of those 2,000 people, there's at least 3 people that watch my videos religiously that are like, I hope he never stops posting because like this is all I got. You know what I mean? So it just like kind of motivates me to just like put out the content just to, keep people entertained, keep people on their path, give them something to motivate them, whatever. People could get all type of value out of the videos. I would never know, honestly, but all I really have to do is live my life and hit record on a camera, and I don't mind doing that. So yeah.
Yeah, of course. Well, I would say that the Instagram, if you could call it a market, for dentistry is it's pretty saturated. I feel like everybody in dental school at any dental school has, a dentistry Instagram thing. But a way, that you stuck out, or anybody, I guess, could stick out that's pursuing dentistry or pre-med is creating a YouTube channel. And then to stick out from that YouTube channel is, I guess, what you're doing, right? Because I was looking through your most, viewed videos, and it's not of you. It's actually of, vlogs of, dentists and going through their life. And it's a very cool environment that you've created. Why did you choose to go down that route, I guess? Why did you choose to follow other people and figure out what they're doing as your content?
Yeah. So mainly I knew that everybody, especially because like a lot of people watch my channel because they're minorities. They want to see someone that's a minority that made it in the field that they can kind of relate to. I know that majority of the people that are like that don't want to go to my school. Like even me, I like originally like my first choice was Howard. Like I knew I wanted to go to an HBCU. I felt like I would be more supported there, etc. And I get it. So I was like, okay, well, every single person that watches my channel, one doesn't want to go to BU, or two might not get into BU. So let me get some other people that might want to, check them out. Um, I definitely had the idea of getting like Howard, Meharry, and Tufts because I knew those were like the top 3 schools that minority people look at when they want to go to dental school. They see a lot of people that look like us that are there. They feel like that's more welcoming. They feel like that would be a more comfortable situation. And so I was like, let me at least try to get, some laws from those schools. And I just floated the idea like to anyone, like anyone that wants to be on the channel, like please, I just send me the clips. I'll do all the editing. Like it'll be wonderful. Like I get to take a little break from recording myself. I know these people are tired of seeing me all the time. Um, I figured, it could help my channel get out there, just more people getting on the channel. They tell their friends or their parents or, whoever pre-dents that they know, hey, check out my video on this channel. And they might just see my channel and, they were just looking for someone to follow that's in dental school and, they'll stick around or they won't. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but as long as they got something out of it, whether they wanted to see what a day in the life was like at Meharry or whatever school was on there, as long as they were getting some kind of value from it, that was cool with me. I didn't, it's not really about me. So I don't mind not being the face of the channel.
Yeah, yeah. I Your most viewed video is actually about you being open and honest on your kind of journey into dental school and how you got into dental school. Um, was it hard for you to kind of be honest about your situation? Because we mentioned this is a competitive space and there's a lot of people that compare, like comparison is a thief of joy, like there's a lot of comparison in this field. Was it hard to make that video, and has your goals shifted from when you first started the channel till now? Like what possible future goals do you have for your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so honestly, it wasn't really that hard for me to make that video. Like I feel like I made the video with the intention of just kind of like breaking the stigma. Everyone thinks you have to be like the perfect student, et cetera, et cetera. Gotta graduate with the best grades, top of your class, this and that. And like, I just wanted to inspire people to just kind of keep going. I know that everyone doesn't have, that same mindset that I had, that like I can't give up, or like, I have a plan, all I have to do is execute. Everyone isn't, that strong minded, and everyone doesn't have like a couple people in their corner to give them that kickstart that I needed when I was in my sophomore, junior year of college. So I was just like, I mean, I already did it. I didn't lie about my grades on my transcript. Like it's out there. The people that accepted me to my school know my grades, so I just put myself out there. And I mean, people are gonna judge you no matter what, or have something to say no matter what. I personally never really cared about any of that stuff. Um, I knew people would get something out of the video. I had a good idea or thought or whatever. I had a vision. I knew that would be one of my better videos on my channel in the long run. Um, but I mean, yeah, I always, I feel like that was a good way, especially because that's probably like the third or fourth video I ever made for my channel. It was definitely in the first five. I figured that would be a good way for me to establish kind of like my brand for the channel. Like I wanted people to know that I would always be like open and honest and transparent, and that like I intend on sharing, the realities of what it's like to be a pre-dent, or what it's like to be a dental school student, and not to make everything look like it's glitz and glam, or like I'm the perfect student or the perfect person, because I feel like that doesn't really help anybody. Of course, like, I might want to get on YouTube and see a dental student, and, I love to see all the glitz and glam and everything. But if I can't relate to you, then, people aren't really going to stick around anyway. So, yeah, as far as goals for the channel goes, honestly, they haven't changed. When I started the channel, um, honestly, I didn't know how long I was going to stick with it. It's just something I started, and I was just like, let's see where this goes. I'm not really the kind of person to give up on things, so I kind of knew I would stick with it for a little bit. Originally, I wanted to, kind of establish the baseline work for the channel when I was in dental school, and then like eventually when I graduate and I start working as a dentist, it would be a nice way for me to show kids like, this is what life as a dentist looks like. I feel like I wasn't really super interested in dentistry until I saw what my cousin's life was like as a dentist. And I feel like I could be that for someone else, but they might not have a family member especially someone that looks like me might not have a parent or a brother or a sister or a cousin that's a dentist. They don't have, see what their life is like, and like what it's like to be a dentist. So I was really just like, honestly, while I'm in school, I'll just let people enjoy the process, and it'll be beneficial to pre-dental students, or maybe like my friends that just want to keep up with what I'm doing. But honestly, the, the main goal was to get it right for when I'm a dentist, when I can actually show like a day in the life of a dentist and stuff. And I also all like before I started YouTube, I kind of knew that if you're fortunate enough, like YouTube could be a very lucrative business. And I knew that I never really wanted the money to myself. I honestly always wanted to start like a dental school scholarship. Like eventually, if I make that much money from YouTube, like I could go on to pay for like at least a year of someone's dental school. Because I know dental school is super expensive. That's one of the barriers when it comes to applying. And even now, like I just monetized my video, my YouTube a few months ago, but The goal this year before the application opens up is just to do like a pre-dental scholarship, at least to be able to pay for like one school's application, which for the first school is around like two something. So I wanted to start off with maybe a $250 scholarship. Next year, make some more money. It can go to 500. By the time I'm fourth year student, maybe 1,000, something like that. I don't know. Always gotta shoot for the stars, but whatever I can afford, that's what I'm gonna give back. So it's always been the goal. That's still the goal. Goals are being accomplished, and yeah.
That's great. What made you such a humble guy? Was it your parents? Was it your upbringing? What made you want to uh, what made you want to think
Um,
about that? Because a usual, person on YouTube, when they make money, they're like, okay, I'm making this YouTube channel, so I make money, so I can spend it, save it, whatever. And
yeah.
you're the opposite.
I mean, like I said, it's just not for me. I mean, the channel isn't about me. Like, I mean, it seems like it's about me because I have to show my face and kind of make about my life to motivate people. But it's always been about increasing uh the minority population in dentistry, and any way that I can do that, especially if it's through the channel, like, is great. So I always recognize that, of course, like, are people feel like they might not be able to apply to dental school because they don't have the best grades, they didn't have the best academic performance when they were in undergrad, and they don't know about the other opportunities that they have after they graduate so that they can get there. So I can provide myself as a resource that way, but at the end of the day, applying to dental school is very expensive. Attending dental school is very expensive. And if I'm making money off of this, then like that's another way that I can help is by doing a scholarship, giving the money back. I mean, I don't make money without people watching the videos, so why not put that back into my community? And so, I it's just I don't know.
Yeah.
I never really thought about that much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's fantastic. I want you to imagine 2 years from now, you get done with dental school. Have you thought ever about specializing, or is it just general dentistry? I want to be done with school. I want to start, making money.
Yeah, I've definitely thought about specializing. There are a few different fields of dentistry that are very, very interesting to me. However, it's I'm still on the fence. Like, it's been a long I think about it a lot. I think about it every day, I'm not gonna lie. You know, especially someone like me being non-traditional. I'm gonna be graduating a few months shy of turning 30 years old. I'm gonna be at a different place in life where I may not want to go another 3, 4 years of school without getting paid. I may not want to take on 200, 300,000 more dollars in loans to pay for 3 more years of school to specialize. Is there's a lot of different factors. Ideally would be like the ideal thing to do would be specialize, get some type of scholarship that would pay for me to specialize, and then I don't have to worry about money. But, you know, um, that's just a bridge I'll have to cross when I get there, honestly. Like, the options are limitless. I love that I have the freedom to kinda either do one or the other. I have the freedom to not do any kind of residency and just go start making money. But I am grateful that both 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 things could work out well for me. Like, I mean, like, imagine what, going on to be a specialist would do for like the channel and inspiring people. Like, that would be amazing. But at the same time, imagine what point I might be at where after I graduate dental school, I might have 10,000 subscribers and there's people that want to come be my first patient or whatever. Like, you just never really know. So I don't know. Definitely right now we're leaning towards specializing. I think that's kind of going to be like a pre-med turned into pre-dent story, like always been like that burning passion in the back of my head that I just can't get rid of. And then I end up, wanting to specialize. The great thing is you don't have to specialize straight out of school either. So if I decide to work as a general dentist and I end up changing my mind, then that's always a possibility too. So I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll see.
Yeah,
Still,
there's a lot of options. What specialty really comes out to you?
definitely ortho.
Ortho.
You know, that's my that's my origin story to dentistry. So
Yeah.
that's always something that stuck out to me. Super, super competitive specialty, admittedly. So we'll just have to see where that goes. I mean, it's a competitive specialty. It's an expensive specialty. But I personally feel like it is very much worth it. Um, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. And then whether you specialize or not, I'm sure you're going to do great, whatever you do. Ownership, private practice, do you want to work with a group of other people? Do you want to do public health to repay some of the loans? What do you plan to do?
Um, so to be honest, as of right now, I think my ideal situation in the long run would be like a co-ownership of a private practice, like me and a colleague. I don't think I ever really want to be a sole owner. I think that's a lot of responsibility for me. Um, who knows though? I don't know. I feel like I'm the kind of person that if the opportunity presents itself, it's never something I would back down from. Always willing to accept a challenge, you know, who knows? But I think right now my ideal situation would be like co-ownership of a private practice, me and a friend 50-50, and we just, take it to the moon.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much for literally everything. Talking about, before undergrad and your origin story to undergrad to post back to dental school, post dental. I feel like we got a full depiction of, it takes many backgrounds, it takes many stories to come into fruition into, dental school. And there's a lot of different people that find their way into dentistry, and you're living proof of one. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And I'm
Yeah,
sure you're going to do great things in the future. I'll be watching those videos. So thank you so much for joining me.
yeah, of course.